You are listening to WMHW HD1 and HD2 Mount Pleasant Mountain 91.5, a service of Central Michigan University's School of Broadcast and Cinematic Arts. Hello, folks, and welcome in to Episode 4 of Count That Baby and a Foul. I'm Anthony Schulte, joined today by Ryan Donnelly and two card guys, Derek Steele and Izaak Haffenden. Welcome back to the show, gentlemen.
How are we doing, Anthony? Glad to be here.
Oh, it's going good today, even though it's been a rough couple days of Pistons basketball. At 12:05, we have our week recap. 12:20, stay tuned for how Cade Cunningham is an all-star this season. And 12:30, we will go over the next week in Pistons basketball. But first, if you're a frequenter of Card Guys, our show Mondays and Wednesdays here at 12 o'clock on 91.5 The Mountain, you would know that I do my Anthony Schulte rant of the day. That's a new little inclusion we have because I like to rant and complain about things. Well, we're bringing that over to Count That Baby and a Foul. My rant of the day is about Pistons fans and how this season has gone for Pistons fans. Now, let's look at it like this. Yeah, it's been a little disappointing. 2-4, you should have won a couple of those games. A lot of them were, not that close. But you have to look at this. It's the first week in Monty Williams' career here in the next 8 years. It's the first week of this team playing together, and there are so many injuries on this team, you can't get a good grasp of what they are right now. Look, a lot of teams in the NBA are very, very talented. There's no shortage of talent in the NBA. I mean, we're looking at the Rockets and the Hornets and the Pistons and just teams with a lot of talent being some of the worst teams in the league. And 5 years ago, they'd be probably fringe playoff teams. So that's what we're kind of what I'm thinking about here is when Pistons fans are complaining, they're like, oh, Cade Cunningham and the turnovers. We'll get to the turnovers in a little bit. Saying, oh, Cade Cunningham's a bust. He's not what you want. I frankly have to disagree because you have to look at it from this mindset of we are a young team. We are just starting to play together again. This is a brand new system that all these guys just got thrown into, and a lot of guys are hurt. A lot of guys are young. They're going to make mistakes. Cade Cunningham is so mature that maturity leads to turnovers. And I just want to leave Pistons fans with this as I'm approaching the end of my rant. Pistons fans, everything will be okay. We don't have to make the playoffs this year for the future to be bright. There's still a lot of Pistons basketball to be played this season and the next couple seasons. We have $89 million in free agency next year. Get some extensions going, make some big trades perchance, and we'll be all good. But it's 12:05, which means we're going to open up the rest of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we got, of course, as I mentioned, Derek Steele, my good buddy and co-host Ryan Donnelly, always with me on these shows, and Izaak Haffenden across the way. Guys, how are we feeling about the Pistons so far this season?
Honestly, I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. I mean, that Chicago game, the Charlotte game gave us a lot to be optimistic about in the city of Detroit. Now, we have the two kind of tough losses in Portland and in OKC. New Orleans didn't go the way we wanted to last night. But you mentioned it. This is a young team. There's two key contributors to this team who are still out, and Bojan Bogdanovic and Monte Morris. So once they get back, plus we're starting to add in Jalen Duren, who was out the last two nights. There's a lot to be really happy about this young team.
Monte Morris will be coming back next week, by the way. He said he is very close to being back, and Bojan Bogdanovic will be in a couple weeks. So we're about to get those reinforcements back.
All right. So my take on the Pistons season is that obviously it's a little frustrating. Detroit sports fans, they're impatient. They want to win. I think that's the case for all four sports teams. But
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with wanting your sports teams to win. That's okay. That's normal behavior as a fan. But at the same time, you got to realize that the Pistons aren't a legit contender yet. And that goes for the Red Wings and the Tigers as well. They aren't ready. But onto the Pistons. We're going to win some games that we're supposed to lose, and we're going to lose some games that we're supposed to
I think you took Derek's point right there.
But it's going to be an interesting season of basketball because obviously we're not at our full potential, both maturity-wise, physicality-wise, and health-wise. So
100%.
I mean, I think you even look at the games or this season last year. You look at that Golden State. It was a Sunday night in Detroit.
Yep.
That was a game. That was a teal night.
Nights.
I mean, you look at that game, and Golden State, one of the best teams in the NBA, one of the best teams in the Western Conference. So no one had us winning that game. No one had Detroit coming out of that game with a win. But hey, you know what? They ended up winning that game, and this is a really tough stretch coming up for the Pistons, having Phoenix, Golden State, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and then Chicago.
Don't count us out. I think we can squeak out maybe 2 wins during.
I was gonna say, especially that Sunday, Monday back-to-back, that's going to be a really intriguing back-to-back for me because they're two really tough teams. Mm-hmm. But also, they're two teams that have to come from the West Coast to the East Coast, and we've seen jet lag play a big factor in all 4 professional sports. I mean, we look at, teams going across the country. We look at teams going internationally in the NFL. We see jet lag be a big factor, especially that Monday game against Golden State. I think that's one that I could very possibly see the Pistons winning because of that jet lag for Golden State.
I think the Suns game could be one of the easier ones just because we don't know if Bradley Beal's going to be back. And if he is, how rusty is he going to be coming off that injury? This Suns team with Booker and Durant just got... they came back against the Spurs, but Wemby dropped 38 on them, boys. So, by the way, Victor Wembanyama is an insane player, insane talent. He's going to be one of the best players in the league. He's already a top 25 player in the league. That guy's a glitch. He is a 2K glitch.
When you're like 7 foot something, got the wingspans of whatever, you're gonna be a good basketball player.
He's insane. But I think the Suns game is going to be one where it's like they kind of underestimate us. I think all of these games, these teams could look, they're just the Pistons, and kind of like take it as like a rest day almost, where they're not really taking it that seriously, and the Pistons will, because they're like, we want to prove ourselves against these teams, and that's how some of those games where you're not supposed to win come about.
And don't forget, that's a good revenge opportunity for Monty Williams, so he could be coaching his ass off and lead us to a close win. So
True.
Never know. Don't count us out on any game. Any night, the Pistons can win. Any given night, because we're still a young team, and if things are clicking any night, anything can happen.
I do agree with you, Isaac. I think it's a jet lag thing last night, especially against New Orleans. But just the Pistons, I do agree with all of you guys. Like, don't count us out just yet. When we're hot, especially against not the Pelicans, the Bulls and the Hornets. Just don't count us out. When we have everybody healthy, like when we have Bojan back in a couple weeks, when we have Monte back next week, and then when we have Livers back, and then Burks back. We lost all our shooting. That's why I feel like we've been losing a majority of our games. Yep. Burks has been out for a couple games. Bojan hasn't played a game yet, and Joe Harris has been cold. So
he's had a couple good games recently, but that's because his role has really increased since Burks has been gone. Bojan's gone. We can't forget about Isaiah Livers. He's a plus shooter. Yep. And Monte Morris is a good shooter as well.
I think you got to look at this Pistons team. Like, I think it's especially really hard because of the outcome in the Portland game. You got to realize this is a team that was up, 18, 19, 20 points against Portland.
Up by 18, and Portland is not a good team, folks.
Bleacher Report was calling them the Showtime Pistons.
We were playing so well, and then it just...
There's a lot... It's hard to see the positives out of a very tough loss like that. I completely understand that, and I agree. There's a lot to clean up. Turnovers for this team right now is a big issue. Fouls for this team right now is a big issue. They're making immature mistakes.
And that's going to happen with a young team.
It's going to happen, but also as a head coach, if I'm sitting in Monty Williams' office right now, I'm thinking about the positives as well. Cade's played outstanding. He's had, 2 30-point games this season?
Yes, he has. 2 30-pointers.
Jalen Duren's been a big plus. Asar Thompson, holy smokes, on the defensive end has been really good. His offensive presence...
He floats through the air to block shots.
His offensive presence has been getting better. It's been improving night in and night out as well. So there's a lot to be positive, and... something, I don't care who the team is, it's still the National Basketball Association. You have to have stuff going right to be able to get that 18, 19-point lead.
Yep.
And now it's just about closing games. It's about keeping your foot on the gas pedal. I really think the Pistons just got complacent that night, and they took their foot off the gas pedal. Instead of going 100 miles per hour down the freeway, they were going 50 miles per hour. So now...
You got a little too comfortable.
They did. And that's a game... where if this team goes on to have a successful season, whatever a successful season is, if it's going 500, if it's making the play-in, if it's making the playoffs, whatever a successful season is, I think this is a game you could go back and look at and say, there are a lot of really tough lessons learned that night that helped us grow and helped us improve on and off the court.
I also don't think the back-to-backs really helped the Pistons. But let's go through these games, and let's kind of discuss these games because it's been a busy first couple weeks of Pistons basketball because of all the back-to-backs. So let's go over it. First game of the season, it was a loss in Miami, 103-102, a comeback effort coming just short. Cade Cunningham just absolutely tearing apart that Miami defense. And Miami hasn't won a game since. So we probably should have won that game a little bit more single-handedly because Miami, they've come back down to earth. Charlotte, we got our first win of the season, 111-99 win. Cade Cunningham had an off night that night, but Alec Burks and Beef Stew really picked up the slack. Jaden Ivey had a good second half that game. Chicago, the home opener, and it looked like a home opener right there, 118-102, despite Zach LaVine's 51-point burger that night. The Pistons pull out a good win right there. Jalen Duren, insane performance. Cade Cunningham, another spectacular performance. And then we go into OKC, and we lose 124-112 on that sports equinox. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people's eyes were on the Red Wings and Lions that night, but still the Pistons, at least we didn't lose by 20. That's all I'm taking away from that game. And then Portland, a game you should win against a very, very bad Trailblazers team. You're up by 18, and you end up losing by 9. Of course, the refs and the turnovers didn't do you any favors, but those shouldn't be a factor in a game that you're up by 18 in, but still lost 110-101. Shaedon Sharpe, a free throw merchant. And then last night on a back-to-back at New Orleans, 125-116 comeback loss. We were down by 25. We came back to be down by about 4. Marcus Sasser, 19 points, only missing 2 shots. A great game for Marcus Sasser and Cade Cunningham. He had, 24 points?
22.
22 points for Cade Cunningham. In that one, also 11 assists, so a double-double. Gentlemen, I just want to get you guys' thoughts on just as a collective group, how this team has played. Because we just went over the scores. We just went over the wins and losses. Does the record so far of 2-4 speak to this team? Or is there a little bit more to this team? It's just a couple of bad games.
I think it's a combination of just we play really well when we shouldn't be playing well, like Miami when we came back and we were down by like 18-19. That Hornets and Bulls games, those were gimmies. But Thunder, I expected the loss. But we should have beaten Portland. You're up by 19. You look like the Showtime Lakers from the 80s, and then you blow it. I don't know what's happening. Was it? And then, I'm sorry, then we lose to the Pelicans, which that was a gimme, but is it time to switch our lineup? I just looked at a stat, shout out Pistons Talk on X, but should we start Jaden Ivey?
Yes.
I think we start Marcus Sasser. I think Jaden Ivey off the bench is a good piece.
I saw this stat from, did I lose it? Yeah, no, I didn't. So, Jaden Ivey is averaging 11-3. He's shooting 46% from the field and 42% three-point percentage. Killian Hayes, who is the starting shooting guard, by the way. You should have high, especially in a Monty Williams run offense, your expectations are sky high. He's averaging 6 points, 3 assists, 27% from the field, and 25% from 3.
But that's also not his role. His role, and the reason why Killian Hayes is starting is because of his defense next to Cunningham. And that's where Jaden Ivey gets sent to the bench, because I think Jaden Ivey, once Boyan's back and Oster's playing the two, Jaden Ivey and Killian Hayes are going to be one of those bench backcourts that we're like, okay, they play really well together, because Killian plays the defense, Ivey plays the offense, and they complement off each other because they both lack what they have or what each other has. They benefit each other very, very, very well. But Marcus Sasser brings the defense you want, and he obviously brings the offense that you want. From last night, you saw it last night. I think Sasser won the starting job, in my opinion, if I'm Monty Williams.
And to be honest, like I totally agree with you. Him and Asor Thompson pair perfectly together. Just having him in the lineup will help so much. He's a great scorer. His defense is great. He's fast. He has athleticism for his size.
And he can play off Cunningham
can play off Cunningham really well. So I feel like Sasser, I think keeping Ivey on the bench will be good. He'll grow off the bench. Like he's having I'd say a pretty slow start because he's not used to this role. But at the same time, I feel like give him a couple more games, and I feel like he'll blossom off the bench. And then you start Sasser, who's been great this year. I think just benching Killian or not giving him a lot of minutes and giving Sasser those minutes would help a lot. And that's my thing. I think a lineup change is very necessary, and especially when you have 3 days to do this against the Suns. That's my take.
All right. I think when you look in 2022 to 23, Killian Hayes was averaging 28.3 minutes a game. And in 6 games so far this year, Killian Hayes is averaging 29.2 minutes a game. I think it is
ridiculous.
I think it is ridiculous that you are continuing to start Killian Hayes. I know his defense is good. He can steal the ball. That's great. But I think for a team that is trying to kind of get an identity, trying to win some games, which obviously that's what the Pistons want to do. That's why we hired Monty Williams. I don't think Killian Hayes should be playing that many minutes. You got to give it to Sasser. You got to give some minutes to Ivy. But if you want to start Killian, that's great. But I think he should be getting just be like a starter. Nothing, not that many minutes. Obviously give some more minutes to Ivy and to Sasser. I feel they've earned more minutes than Killian. That's just my opinion. But
I think it's really hard to look at a lineup for the Pistons right now when we're missing Bojan and Monte. Monte's going to come up. Killian Hayes is about to see his role go from starter all the way down to I'm not taking off the sweats. That's what's going to happen to Killian Hayes.
He's about to go down to that third unit.
Monte Morris is going to come in, and Monte Morris is going to play off the bench with Jaden Ivey. They're going to be a very, very, very nice bench duo guard tandem. And then you're going to see Marcus Sasser, he's in my opinion earned a role over Killian Hayes, especially after last night. He has earned playing time because he is a positive player for us. But when Bojan comes back, Killian Hayes is still going to be in the lineup. It's going to be Ausar Thompson. But Ausar Thompson plays better defense. He shows way more heart and hustle, and he's a better player on offense. He may have had a rough night last night, but it's the second end of a back-to-back. You're just coming into New Orleans at 12 o'clock, just like New Orleans did. But you're not known for shooting, and when they're leaving you wide open in the NBA, I don't care if you've never made a three in your life, you're taking the shot. In this NBA, if you don't take that shot, it's either a turnover or a wasted possession. You might as well take the shot. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Ausar's going to keep shooting until he makes it. His shooting percentage was not good last night, but he still had, what was it, 15, 16 points? It was still a solid amount of points. Of course, he had more field goals than points, but you don't want to hinder your young guys from developing that shot. And with Ausar at the 2 and Bojan at the 3, it creates way more spacing than 2 Killian Hayeses in your lineup. Once Bojan's back, they can't double Cade anymore, because then Bojan's going to move around and get open like he usually does. Bojan's really good at that movement and then getting into that position where he's open off a double team. So once Bojan's back, I think that's when we could really take a big look at this depth chart and see Killian Hayes. He's going to start to fall down the cliff. He's going to start going down. Sasser's going to slowly come up a little bit. Monte Morris is going to come in as that backup 1 with Jaden Ivey at the backup 2. And then Cunningham and Ausar are going to play so well together, in my opinion, because Cade is turning into a great three-point shooter. I never thought he would. I'll be honest. I thought he was going to be career 35%, 34% three-point shooter. He's shooting through 6 games. If you're shooting 41%, I think you've really improved your jump shot, at least in Cade Cunningham's
absolutely
in Cade Cunningham's case. But it's 12:20. So speaking of Cade Cunningham, this is a segment that I was really looking forward to today. Cade Cunningham is an all-star, and that is my bold prediction for this season. Cade Cunningham is an all-star. You're looking at him, 23 points per game right now, 7 assists per game, 3 rebounds per game, with a 41% three-point percentage, as we were talking about. We alluded to those 2 30-point games earlier in the show. But the one thing that is really, I think, going to hinder his all-star candidacy is the turnovers. And in my rant, I didn't go over the turnovers because I wanted to bring them up right now. The turnovers are going to happen. You look at LeBron James. He leads the league all-time in turnovers. Nobody talks about that. Steph Curry, in his performance against the Kings, 6 turnovers. Nobody's talking about that. But Cade Cunningham has 6 turnovers, and all of a sudden he's a bust because he turns the ball over. That's what you see with ball-dominant, playmaking point guards, is you're going to see those turnovers. Cade Cunningham's maturity, he's thinking three steps ahead, and these players don't even know where they are in the current step. most of these players. So when he's making that feed to Duren, when he's making that feed to Osser, and he's leading them, and they just don't know how to play with him yet because Cade and Duren's only played, 20 games together? Osser and Cade's only played 6 games together. So they're still learning how to play with each other. And when Cade's making those passes, you're seeing about half of his turnovers are they're not going to the ball. Cade's making the extra read, and he's looking ahead in the defense, and the receiving player is not making that extra read and noticing that extra step or that extra move to take. That's where the turnovers are coming from, and I think that's what Pistons fans really need to understand is, yeah, the turnovers look bad right now, but that's going to happen when you have an immature young team and you have a point guard that plays like he's 30, like he's a Chris Paul. He's a big Chris Paul, in my opinion, the way he's able to see the floor and slow down the game. But I want to get your guys' opinions on Cade Cunningham and a possible all-star candidacy this year, because we saw it with Tyrese Halliburton last year. I mean, Tyrese, he started the year with a lot of turnovers too last season, and he still made an all-star team. So I want to hear your guys' opinions, because I personally think Cade Cunningham is an all-star this season.
I think it is 100% a possibility, but it also has to go down to how big of a name you have in the NBA, because a lot of the NBA for All-Star voting comes from the fans. So you're going to see your Kevin Durant's, your Devin Booker's, your LeBron James, Luka Doncic. You're going to see those players make the All-Star game. I think it's very possible that Cade does, but I also want to bring up this point as well. Cade Cunningham's played 82 games in the NBA.
Yeah, he played his 82nd game last night. He's played one full season of NBA basketball in 3 years.
So you have to think about the amount of time he's missed and the amount of basketball he's been able to play. Like, this is a player we're talking about who, through his first season, was third in Rookie of the Year voting.
Well, that's because of our bad record, but we're not going to get into that.
But he was still in the Rookie of the Year voting. He played, 50-some-odd, 60-some-odd games that year?
Yeah, he played 50, around that.
50. Okay, so then last year he played around 12. He played 12 games, and then he's played 6 games so far this year. So he doesn't have the experience that we see all these other guys, your Chris Paul, your Steph Curry's, your LeBron James. They have years and years and years of NBA experience. Cade Cunningham has 1 season, so he's not mature yet. Let me rephrase that. He doesn't have the experience. He's doesn't
not
know
mature in the NBA realm.
Yes, he doesn't know how to split that double team yet. He doesn't know how to get teammates to move without the ball. He doesn't
100%.
know how to lead the team. And that's why I think the Pistons, for them to be a legitimate contender, need to get a number 1 scoring option.
Yes, I agree.
Cade Cunningham is a good 1 scoring option, but I think he would be an amazing 2 option.
On a championship team, he's a 2 option.
He would be a Klay Thompson. He would be what Golden State had Klay Thompson do is exactly what Detroit should have Cade Cunningham do. If it's bringing in Devin Booker, if it's bringing in some other big name to be your main scoring option and have Cade, if you're having that main scoring option be what Steph Curry is, obviously no one's going to be as good of a shooter as Steph Curry is, but facilitate the ball. Be, that leader on the offense. That's what Steph Curry is to Golden State. Klay Thompson was just out there getting buckets. That's what Cade Cunningham's going to be for Detroit once he matures, once he understands how to read defenses, how to read an NBA defense better. But going back to the All-Star, I think it's a possibility. I don't think it's likely yet.
Well, what you said about the fans tell about the popularity in the media. Bleacher Report's made 4 or 5 Cade Cunningham posts, and people are on the Cade Cunningham trade right now. I was looking through the replies, and everybody's like, "Oh, I love Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham's awesome." I'm like, "Where did this come from? Where was this last season and the season before?" Anyways, I think the fans, if Cade keeps playing like this, and say he's averaging 25, 7 and 4, and he has 4 30-point games, 5 30-point games, 6 30-point games by the All-Star break, I think it's a very high chance.
I do agree with you. I think just at the pace that he's playing at right now, turnovers are killing. I think he could totally make an All-Star. I think he could make a case for All-Star. Like you said earlier in the segment, Tyrese Halliburton. He had a lot of turnovers, and he made an All-Star team.
He played in a small market.
And he plays in a small market. Detroit, I wouldn't really consider a small market.
I think in the grand scheme of things,
it's a medium market.
It's a medium.
It's not like the Los Angeleses or the Bostons or
I think
New Yorks.
When Detroit's good, it's a medium market, but as of late, it's a small market.
I agree.
It's a small
I agree.
market, but then again, like, I think Cade Cunningham and Tyrese Halliburton both have similar playing styles. Like, their shooting form looks oddly similar. They're not afraid to shoot the ball. I could totally see him make a case for an All-Star game, but like you said, he has officially 1 full year of NBA experience. He just needs to mature. He just needs to realize that it's not his team and it's everybody's team.
Yep.
Because that's what it feels like that we've been seeing from Cade Cunningham this year. But
I mean, it comes with experience. It comes with experience, and you see these players grow off of each game they play. I see Cade Cunningham as once he grows and he matures like that and he develops his game, I see him as a Luka Doncic, Tyrese Halliburton hybrid. I really do.
I think also that it comes down to the team as well. Your roommate Tyler made a really good point.
Shout out Tyler Brazil. Or Brazil, sorry, excuse me.
Brazil.
He made a really good point during the Portland game. Down the stretch, who had the ball in their hands? Cade Cunningham.
Yep.
It was an ISO for Cade every possession. He was either trying to chuck up some sort of shot or get to the basket, and we all know the basket wasn't doing him any favors.
And the refs weren't either when he's getting hacked.
The refs weren't either, but I
call.
think that's when you see a Joe Harris. That's when you see an All-Star Thompson. When you see a Marcus Sasser wide open on the perimeter, you kick the ball out, give them a wide open three.
Kind of like in that Suns preseason game
Yep.
with Oscar Thompson wide open in the corner.
And I think that's where Cade needs to mature. Is he's had very good ball movement. I've been really impressed with the Pistons' ball movement. That's one of the biggest pluses for them, in my opinion, so far. That .5 offense for Monty Williams has been doing work, and it's shown dividends already. But I think for Cade, he needs to understand more when to put the ball into his hands and put the team on his back, and when to trust his teammates. And I think he got too ball dominant against Portland, and he tried to win the game against Portland.
All right. So my take on Cade Cunningham as an All-Star is that absolutely he's an All-Star. And, even if Cade isn't voted or selected to be an All-Star, he's an All-Star. And ultimately, you can admit that the NBA has a lot of talent. This is the most talent the league has ever had, and that might prevent Cade from being an All-Star, which is all right. But still, he's an All-Star. He is developing a great three-point shot. He's developing a good feel for the game. Obviously, the season's still young, and he's still very new to the whole NBA idea and carving up an NBA defense. So he's still learning. But I think as the season goes on, Cade Cunningham's points are going to go up a little bit. His assists are going to go up a little bit. I think once Duren, once Asar, and maybe just anyone else on this team develops like an offensive identity, I think they're going to put some more respect on those guys. That's going to take a little bit of attention away from Cade, which is going to open up his scoring numbers. But I think once Bojan comes back, once Flint native Monte Morris comes back,
Flint native.
I think you're going to see Cade's assist numbers go up, but ultimately rebounds are going to go up with time. So I think absolutely he is an All-Star this year.
All right, moving on. It's 12:30, so we have our final segment of the day to close off the show. We hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday. It's the last day before the weekend. The next week in Pistons. So I'll be with you guys next weekend. Ryan may or may not be on, depending on what he does with his weekend.
I don't know if I'll be on again. Like, I have nothing to do next weekend, and I kind of want to go home. But we'll see. We'll play it by ear.
We'll play it by
in
ear.
the words of my good buddy Derek Steele.
Play it by ear.
We'll play it by ear. But the next week in Pistons, we'll recap these games on Friday, and then every single Friday we'll have our week in Pistons. So next week in Pistons, Sunday against Phoenix. We talked about this game a little bit. 3 o'clock tip-off on Bally Sports Detroit. Phoenix comes into Detroit. It'll be the first game of a back-to-back. Suns-Pistons. Maybe Bradley Beal will be back. With our luck, he will be.
Yeah.
Monday against Golden State, second out of a back-to-back. It's going to be a rough stretch, folks. Golden State on Monday. And then Wednesday, we have Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, so we're taking a one-game road trip across Lake Michigan to Milwaukee to take on the new-look Bucks, Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, about to carve up my Pistons. And then we have our Pistons, my Pistons, everybody's Pistons, until we start to lose again. And then nobody's going to watch the Pistons anymore. Yeah! And then Philadelphia on Friday to start our in-season tournament play, the 10th of November, Friday against Philadelphia, 1 week from tonight. Gentlemen, what's your one game you're looking forward to this week?
Honestly, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I'm really looking at that Golden State game on Monday. They're also coming off a back-to-back. They're playing Cleveland in Cleveland Sunday night, and then they're playing Detroit in Detroit Monday. So I really think that both teams coming off a back-to-back, that's going to be a really interesting game.
Yeah.
And I think that's one that the Pistons could steal like they did last year.
That Phoenix Suns game is going to be fun. Again, Beal. We haven't seen Beal, Durant, and Grand Rapids native Devin Booker play together, so we don't know what their chemistry is going to be looking like. So that's going to be a fun game. Especially, it's going to be a home game, and that home crowd has been electric all year. That Phoenix game's going to look good, and then our first in-season tournament. First, it's going to be weird without Harden, and Tyrese Maxey's going to drop 50 on us. But nonetheless, the game that I'm looking forward to is the Phoenix Suns.
And this will be Phoenix's first game in Detroit under ownership of Michigan native Matt Ishbia.
All these Michigan natives. Go ahead, Isaac.
All right, so the game I am looking most forward to during this upcoming stretch is the game against the Bucks.
Good.
I am going to say because we are not coming off a back-to-back, and I want to see what Killian Hayes. I want to see what our guards and Asar can do to stop Damian Lillard.
We may have Monte Morris back for that game as well.
Yep. So that's why I'm excited. We should be pretty rested up for that game, and it's a division rival. And I want to see what we can do against a supposed elite team in the East.
And Milwaukee's had our number for a while. It's been hard to beat Milwaukee.
When was the last time we beat the Bucks? It's been a while.
25 years.
No, we beat them once in the Blake Griffin era, I believe.
Yeah.
The last time the Pistons defeated the Bucks was...
My guess is 2019.
My guess is 2018.
January 3rd of 2022, we beat them 115-106.
We did?
We did?
Home.
What?
At home.
I don't remember that.
It was a Cade Cunningham game.
I do not remember that game.
Okay.
I do not remember that.
Cade
Okay.
Cunningham's rookie season. It was actually... What were Cade Cunningham's stats?
I'm telling you guys, expect a close game against the Bucks. I seriously think we could squeak out a win against the Bucks. That's just
Are the Suns no longer good? Because they got their butts handed to by single-handedly Victor Wembanyama.
Cade Cunningham converted a putback of his own miss with 27 seconds left to seal away the game.
Well,
so it was a Cade Cunningham game.
Cade Cunningham, Atlanta Hawks killer and Milwaukee Bucks killer.
Hopefully he could do that again on Wednesday.
Then again, he has to get guarded by Damian Lillard, and he has to guard Damian Lillard's deep threes.
Yep.
But from what I've learned in 2K, put their hands in your face and no miss.
I mean, I think they put
Paul
Oscar on
George should
Dame.
have taken some notes.
True. All right, well, Sally, that's all we have for today's show. It's been a fun week in Pistons basketball. Hopefully you guys are watching along with us. Thanks for spending your Friday with us here. Episode 4 of Count That Baby and the Foul on 91.5 The Mountain, YouTube, and wherever you find your podcasts. We'll be back with you next week. Who knows who will be with me? It might just be me. It might be Ryan and me. We might have Derek or Isaac back on. We might have Doug on. Who knows who will be on the next episode of Count That Baby and a Foul? Tune in Friday to find out. For my friends Derek, Steele, Ryan, Donnelly, and Izaak Haffenden, I'm Anthony Schulte. So long, everybody.
I love you, Mom and Dad. Tune in to CCHN tonight.